Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And boy, am I glad that you've joined us this morning. We've got a lot of updates in New York. I don't know if you saw Mamdani and his budget proposal. We'll be talking about that. We also have quite a few updates from past broadcasts, some international updates. Well, let's get right to it. We'll start with viewer comments. How about that? Mark writes in, good morning, Frank, and good morning, Mark. A dude stormed the Capitol in Washington, D.C. with tactical gear and a shotgun. What a wacko. And Reverend Jesse Jackson dies at 84. He tried running for president 2 times. We did talk about the Reverend Jesse Jackson during yesterday's broadcast. The story broke just probably minutes, maybe an hour before we went on the air. We mentioned that. I'm going to tell you what President Trump had to say in just a second. But to Mark's point, a suspected gunman has been arrested outside the U.S. Capitol. In a U.S. Capitol Police statement, they said, our officers just arrested a person with what appears to be a gun near the west front of the U.S. Capitol building. They're continuing to investigate a potential security concern on the lower west terrace of the building. Staff and other personnel are directed to avoid this area. Lawmakers are in recess this week. Most representatives and senators are not in Washington or at the Capitol. Quote, the fact that I work in a building that's such a major target is always in the back of my mind when I'm coming into work, one Hill staffer said. It's definitely a little unnerving at times, but I'm thankful that the Capitol Police do such a great job protecting us and stopping these incidents before they become tragedies. In 2025, the agency investigated 14,938 incidents, a major increase year over year from the 9,474 incidents in 2024. It is amazing. I know in my short time working in Congress, how many emails you would get through your official email that this area is in lockdown, or there's a potential concern, or stay away, these type of things. Though I was not based in Washington, still received the emails, and it was startling. I can understand why, especially some of these aides, very young, right out of college, can be very scary there on the ground. Also, since Mark mentioned the Reverend Jesse Jackson, President Trump paid tribute to the Reverend Jesse Jackson yesterday as a force of nature in the wake of the legendary civil rights leader's death. He said, quote, he was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. He was very gregarious, someone who truly loved people. Jesse was a force of nature like few others before him. I provided office space. Well, he said that he described Jackson as someone he knew well and long before he became president. Trump said, I provided office space for him and his Rainbow Coalition for years in the Trump building at 40 Wall Street. Responded to his request for help in getting criminal justice reform passed and signed when no other president would even try. Single-handedly pushed and passed long-term funding for historically black colleges and universities, which Jesse loved, but also which other presidents would not do. He also took a dig at Obama in his Truth Social, saying that President Barack Obama was someone that Jackson, quote, could not stand. Quote, he had much to do with the election without acknowledgement or credit of Barack Hussein Obama, a man who Jesse could not stand, end quote. Continuing, he loved his family greatly, and to them I send my deepest sympathies and condolences. Jesse will be missed. Now, President Obama was among the scores of others who eulogized Jackson, calling him a true giant in leading change. Quote, from organizing boycotts and sit-ins to registering millions of voters to advocating for freedom and democracy around the world, he was relentless in his belief that we are all children of God, deserving of dignity and respect. Reverend Jackson also created opportunities for generations of African Americans and inspired countless more, including us. Michelle got her first glimpse of political organizing at the Jackson's kitchen table when she was a teen. And in his 2 historic runs for president, he laid the foundation for my own campaign to the highest office in the land. Former President Joe Biden hailed Jackson's determined and tenacious push to help the U.S. through tumult and triumph. He's done it with optimism and a relentless insistence on what is right and just, Biden said. He continued, Reverend Jackson believed in his bones the promise of America, that we are all created equal in the image of God and deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. While we've never fully lived up to that promise, he dedicated his life to ensuring we never fully walked away from it either. And ex-President Bill Clinton tweeting out, I will always be grateful for the friendship he gave Hillary, Chelsea, and me. Proud to have nominated him as my special envoy for the promotion of democracy in Africa, and honored to present him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Hillary and I loved him very much. So that is an update from yesterday. Also, I missed this, and I apologize, Carol. Carol sent into the email. I don't always check the email as efficiently as I do the text. But she had an interesting take on how things are going. We've been talking a lot about Munich, and we're talking about the potential presidential candidates for the Democrat ticket. Gavin Newsom speaking there, AOC. AOC, by the way, not happy of the coverage she received. She's not used to getting any pushback. So when she made these gaffes and presented these word salads and kind of overall embarrassed herself, she was not happy with the coverage that received. Because remember, and I've said it a million times, Democrat politicians could never live for a moment as a Republican in the coverage that Republicans get. They're used to being treated with kid gloves, being praised at all times. So there's actually a piece, and we'll get to it here in just a little bit, in the New York Times where AOC's not happy. Just not happy that her flaws, if you will, were dared to be mentioned by the media. You're not supposed to do that to a Democrat, let alone a potential Democrat presidential candidate. We'll tell you about that in a second. But Carol writes in, good morning. Lately, I've been thinking the best ticket for 2028 would be Rubio-Vance, with Rubio for president and Vance for VP. I think Rubio is way more liked. Remember the vote for his cabinet seat? I believe it was unanimous. Vance, though smart, is a good person in a supporting role. Just my opinion, Carol. Well, thank you, Carol. Your thoughts on that to those tuning in this morning? Carol suggesting, I don't know how that works. So far, Rubio has made it clear that if J.D. Vance runs for president, Rubio would support him wholeheartedly and, of course, therefore not run as president. I'm not sure, politically speaking, if Vance, I guess he'll only have one term under his belt. I'm not saying like any kind of legal reason why he couldn't be VP again. I'm saying pure political reasons. Maybe you can make the argument that he's only had one term, so he's fulfilling another term. But it's kind of hard to stay in that neutral area. You're supposed to move up when you're VP. So I think this is one of these fun kind of questions or comments that get your brain working early on a Wednesday morning at 6:08. So Carol believes Rubio is more liked, and therefore the ticket in 2028 should be Rubio running for president, J.D. Vance running again for VP. Your thoughts on that? Now, Dan Gaynor, kind of to echo what Carol was saying, said the social media star of the Trump administration is naturally President Donald Trump. What's surprising is the one who comes in second place, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. You can hardly visit an online platform without seeing our new Secretary of Memes, even more often than the meme-worthy vice president. It will probably happen even more now that he is fresh off a major speech to the Munich Security Conference that Politico called part of, quote, America's charm offensive. And that has been something kind of interesting, which you always got to take it with a grain of salt because we know the media never wants to see a Republican win. So when they start touting a candidate and saying, well, he did a lot better, he was less aggressive and more charming than J.D. Vance's speech last year, you've always got to be a little worried about that. You've always got to take a step back and say, why are they promoting someone that they do not want to see win? Is that because he may be easier to defeat? I'm not saying that. That's what you have to always consider when you see those types of fawning pieces. And they weren't all fawning, don't get me wrong. But you just have to take it with a grain of salt. But I'll continue. Rubio has become such a social media celebrity that Trump bought into the fun. One True Social poster wrote that Marco Rubio will be president of Cuba. Trump responded, sounds good to me. That set in motion a regional freakout as Cuba's communist government gets increasingly worried it will go the way of Venezuela. And I hope we can get to all this morning, because I just have a feeling we're going to have a fun broadcast, because CNN actually did a piece about Venezuela and talking about the benefits of Maduro no longer ruling in Venezuela. It was shocking. Now, it still was laced with its bias, because I think they asked the question, did Trump actually get this one right? Which is written in a way that assumes that he always gets it wrong. So you've got to, again, remember that it's CNN. But we'll get to that and a little bit of update on Cuba. So it's interesting how everything's tying in with just 10 minutes into the broadcast this morning. But the number one way Rubio is making his mark is what is known as the Marco Rubio realizing meme. And I don't want to talk too much about social media, but it is very clever. It's a picture of Rubio sitting on a couch, and it's doctored with him wearing every costume imaginable as he takes on even more roles for the administration. His list of potential jobs is seemingly endless. President of Venezuela, the Ayatollah of Iran, even the new food pyramid. Following Trump's post about the Obamas, another poster had Rubio realizing he was taking, quote, Marco Rubio, after being told he has to run Greenland now, has him decked out in a furry hooded parka and mittens. And they go through some of the examples. But Rubio memes were flying fast and furious across the internet in time for the Super Bowl. Rubio dressed as a U.S. Olympic skier in response to the whines from the ski team. Rubio is clearly living his best life and enjoying this meme-ish notoriety. At one point, he responded to one of the sports memes like this, quote, I do not normally respond to online rumors, but feel the need to do so at this moment. I will not be a candidate for the currently vacant HC and GM position with the Miami Dolphins. That is, as Dan Gaynor says, downright Trumpian in his sense of humor. Now, as with many things on social media, there's a method to the madness. At one point, Rubio held 4 different jobs under the Trump administration: Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, head of the National Archives, and interim head of USAID. To underscore that point, the Miami Herald ran the headline back in August, Marco Rubio hands off one of his 4 jobs in the Trump administration. In early January, new CBS News anchor Tony DeCoppola did a piece about the rise of Rubionic memes, saying, quote, only in America, the many lives and many jobs of Marco Rubio. Now, AI memes have added to that portfolio, casting Secretary Rubio as the new governor of Minnesota, the new Shah of Iran, the prime minister of Greenland, and the new manager of Manchester United, calling it Marco Rubio's moment. But Rubio may be conquering far more than he realizes, and this is why I mention it to what Carol had to write in during yesterday's program. He also may have won over MAGA conservatives to his side. It wasn't long after Trump's re-election that the press was reporting on opposition among the base voters. Politico declared, Rubio news triggers MAGA backlash. And the Hill went on a similar route, claiming Trump's Rubio pick divides Republicans. And if you notice now, the headlines are always civil war within the Republican Party. But I'll continue. That no longer seems to be the case. Rubio has earned his many jobs because he's been a reliable and successful proponent of America First. And I would also add he's aggressive in his beliefs and in his position in a good way. I mean, when he gives a speech, when he talked to the press, what was that after? Was that after? Yeah, that was after Maduro. When he spoke with the press, he hit it out of the park, and it's just raised the interest of many Trump supporters. Voters might have been skeptical, but many now share the memes both for fun and because they'd be comfortable with the Secretary of State taking on almost any job. DeCoppola said, quote, these memes might not add up to much. That could prove incorrect. The 2028 election still seems decades away, but Rubio's popularity might signal conservative voter support for him to at least have one more job, a spot on the ticket. Perhaps with his meme popularity, partner Vice President J.D. Vance. No matter what, Rubio won't ever sit on a couch without someone declaring it a seat of power. I thought that was a really interesting take. Probably a little too much emphasis on memes, but when these memes are shared and it's not all negative, when it's actually poking fun at kind of how good of a job Rubio is doing and how much he is doing, it does raise some interest. So your thoughts on that? We've got a lot of other updates we need to get to. Then we're going to talk about AOC and her concerns with the press coverage she got in Munich. We also have some New York State updates. I see a lot of people writing in your thoughts on what Carol had to say in yesterday's broadcast. But stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
With the games in full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona Sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
The red, white, and blue oval. The Ford President's Day sales event is bringing deals on all the stars of the lineup. And they've earned their stripes as J.D. Power's most awarded brand for new vehicle quality. Don't miss out, because now's the time to capitalize. Right now, lease a Ford F-150 for $299 a month for 36 months. Only at your local Ford stores.
Farm Mending, physically, emotionally, and financially. AIM's new program, Farmers Supporting Farmers, provides peer-driven mental wellness support to the farming and agribusiness community across the Southern Tier and Finger Lakes. We also assist with financial management and business planning. Our team understands the unique pressures of agriculture. We offer resources and guidance to agribusiness workers and their families. All services are free and confidential. To find out more, visit AIMCIL.com or call 888-328-7847.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today, some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street Corning. Some comments from viewers. Mark writes in, I think J.D. Vance would be a better president. He is more like Trump, and we need his backbone as a strong person. Thank you, Mark. A comment from a different viewer saying, good morning. I agree that a Marco J.D. Vance ticket is a winner, even though the Republicans, unlike the Democrats, have a plethora of other options, i.e., the Democrats offer only a sorry mess of losers to run. I'm going to assume you mean Marco on top of the ticket in the way that you wrote that. That's kind of the fun we're having this morning with Carol's question yesterday. Not really a question, just a comment, which was a fair comment. But either way, that is whatever position you want to put him in, that looks like a winning ticket to me as well. We're just having a little fun this morning with a lot of time left before 2028 to figure out the order. Ken writes in, I just wanted to let your viewers know that New York DOT is holding a meeting at the Horseheads Village Hall on February 26th from 6 to 7 p.m. to discuss the status of the Route 14 Miracle Mile paving project. I wonder if the single lanes for traffic to allow room for bike lanes are still being mandated by the state, if state aid is provided for the project. That's a great question, Ken, one that I'm sure will be asked or discussed. I'll make sure to mention that. I'm going to, as a matter of fact, print it out right now, so we'll continue to broadcast that to viewers so that they are, there we go, printed. So they are aware that that's coming up again at the Horseheads Village Hall on February 26th from 6 to 7 p.m. Yesterday, the Trump administration struck 3 more alleged drug boats in the Pacific and Caribbean. The strikes killed 11 people, according to U.S. Southern Command. Quote, intelligence confirmed the vessels were transiting along known narco-trafficking routes and were engaged in narco-trafficking operations. The strikes are the latest in a series of, quote, according to NBC, controversial military operations that have alarmed and frustrated congressional critics of the administration, although lawmakers have opted to allow them to continue without prior congressional approval. That's a weird sentence. By the way, Will you ever see it say that they are alarmed and frustrated or not? Let's reword that. That no, they're really comfortable and not alarmed. The congressional critics of the administration. The congressional critics of the administration. So the people that don't like the Trump administration are alarmed and frustrated. Okay. In the latest announcement, U.S. Southern Command alleged the 3 boats were operated by designated terrorist organizations. The Post referred to those killed as male narco-terrorists, saying that 8 people were killed on 2 boats in the Eastern Pacific and that 3 were killed on a boat in the Caribbean. No U.S. troops were harmed. So that's an update from yesterday that you may have missed. Also, there's speculation swirling. We have so many updates here. I can't wait to tell you about AOC, but we also have some other kind of updates on what you may consider, well, the Democrat Party. How about that? But first, Maureen Gropp from USA Today asks, will Trump get a 4th Supreme Court justice? Because speculation is now swirling around Samuel Alito. Now, this is the speculation coming particularly among liberal commentators. Alito, the second oldest justice and one of the most conservative, joined the High Court 20 years ago. Melissa Murray, a law professor at New York University, said this is usually a very good milestone on which to retire. I guess that means 20 years. And if Alito wants to step down while Republicans control the Senate, he may not want to gamble on this year's midterm elections. Republicans are expected to have a much easier time retaining the Senate than the House, but a loss can't be ruled out. That would make it difficult for Trump to confirm a successor. Because Senate Republicans may not want to hold a confirmation hearing during the fall of an election year, Alito could announce in the next few weeks that he will step down at the end of the term. Finally, Alito is coming out with a book in October, right as the court will be starting a new term. Steve Vladeck, a law professor at Georgetown University, who writes about the court, called the publication date, quote, a pretty big tell since one can't exactly go on a book tour during the first argument session of the term. Books published in the last few years by Justices Ketanji Brown Jackson and Amy Coney Barrett were published in September, allowing time for the justices to promote them. By the way, we know the whole Grammy controversy with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson as she won a Grammy, or was up for, I don't even remember if she won it, a Grammy for the audiobook of her book. Do you think Alito will be nominated for a Grammy? It just seems as if you have a D next to your name and you write a book, you're probably, and put out an audiobook, you're probably going to win a Grammy. I don't think that same, at least be nominated for a Grammy, I should say. I don't think that same rule applies to conservatives, but I'll continue. But court watchers and lawyer David Latt, who writes about the law, wondered recently whether an October publication date is a sign that Alito is staying put. Quote, book buyers are much more interested in what a current justice has to say as opposed to a retired one. I could see Justice Alito not wanting to step down until well after the publication. I wonder how much of, honestly, book sales plays into whether or not you're going to retire from the Supreme Court. Anyway, just passing this along to you. Trump, during his first term, wait, what? Oh, there we go. Nominated Neil Gorsuch to fill the seat that became vacant during President Barack Obama's last year when Justice Scalia died. Trump nominated Brett Kavanaugh to replace retiring Justice Anthony Kennedy, and he nominated Barrett to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died in 2020. Only 3 presidents since the 50s, Dwight Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan, got to fill more Supreme Court openings. If Alito does step down, Trump would have the chance to appoint a much younger justice who could help maintain the court's conservative majority far into the future. The only sitting justice who is older than Alito, Clarence Thomas, of course, who is among the longest-serving justices in history. Thomas, 77, could set the record if he stays through May of 2028, a reason some court watchers don't expect him to step down now. Okay. Oh, a lot of you are, and we're going to get into the more political stuff, but this is something that's very important and long overdue. And I'm sure it missed a lot of people's radars. But back at the beginning of, well, mid-February, February 17th. So let's say that, oh wait, today's the 18th. I was thinking this was January 17th. My apologies. February 17th. So yesterday, President Trump's Department of Veterans Affairs announced it is ending the decades-old practice of reporting veterans to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System for using a fiduciary. This was a major issue for many years. And the reason I got the dates mixed up, because back in February of 2024, veterans' gun rights have long been in the crosshairs of anti-Second Amendment politicians. Those that have defended our Second Amendment rights and all of our rights, they were essentially held to the most scrutiny. Many in the anti-Second Amendment class did not want to allow veterans. Remember, they started painting veterans as dangerous, citing PTSD and these type of things to use as an excuse to take away their gun rights. One of those rules were if they used a fiduciary, they would not be allowed to own a gun. During the Obama administration, numerous combat veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who might need treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder were increasingly hesitant to pursue it because they feared a diagnosis of PTSD, and that would deny them their gun rights. So again, if they came back and said, I'm really struggling with mental health, I'm really struggling with what I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, but guess what? I want to go out and hunt. I want to go out and target shoot. I want to have a gun in my house for security. So I'm not going to go get that help I need. That was the way the rules were set up under Obama. It was disastrous. It was wrong. Again, these are the people that fought for our rights. But that's exactly what happened. The fears concerned the retaliation, and this comes from, we're taking a step back. It became a serious concern for veterans who needed help balancing their checkbooks and managing their finances due to the mental strain caused by combat. Veterans feared that they faced a stark choice of having a fiduciary or having gun rights. Well, the fears concerning the retaliation of using a fiduciary can now be done away. You no longer need to worry because Trump's VA announced the Department of Veterans Affairs today announced a major new step to protect veterans' Second Amendment rights. Effective immediately, VA will not report veterans to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's NICS, National Instant Criminal Background Check System, as prohibited persons only because they need help from a fiduciary in managing their VA benefits. In addition to immediately stopping the reporting of VA fiduciary program participants to NICS, the department is working with the FBI to remove all past VA reporting from NICS so no veterans are unfairly deprived of their Second Amendment rights based solely on participating in the VA's fiduciary program. Attorney General Pam Bondi saying it is both unlawful and unacceptable for veterans who serve our country to have their constitutional rights threatened. And it has been my pleasure to partner with VA Secretary Doug Collins on this project, and I'm directing the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to review its regulations and propose changes that will prevent current and future violations of our veterans' Second Amendment rights. So again, may have missed your radar, but wonderful news coming out of the VA. Running just a tad bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Weeden Fitzpatrick, located at 6 Gansevoort Street in Bath, is your experienced, highly qualified, and trusted certified public accounting firm. The dedicated and knowledgeable staff of Wheat Fitzpatrick can handle every type of accounting work, including personal and business income taxes. Stop into Weeden Fitzpatrick at 6 Gansevoort Street or give them a call at 607-776-4308. The certified public accountants Charles Wheat and Kelly Fitzpatrick will work hard to make tax time easier for you. Call for an appointment at 607-776-4308.
An albino buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Companies don't make money by paying claims. They make money by denying them. They hire doctors to say you're not that hurt. They bring in lawyers to chip away at your case. They stall, they argue, they cut corners, because every dollar they save is another dollar of profit. At WDC Injury Law, we know their tactics, and we fight back with facts and evidence. If you've been injured in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies control your story.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
After working to reduce your stroke risk, the initial treatment for AFib is often to stabilize your heart rate, but controlling your heart's rhythm may be just as important for long-term health. Ask your doctor how to get in rhythm and stay in rhythm. Learn more at stopafib.org.
You're watching Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer, just curious, are the Democrats still in such a babyish hissy fit that they are still maintaining the shutdown? Or are they beginning to realize just how silly and childish they look? Well, that's a fair question. And the reason why you're not hearing a lot of coverage of it is because it's not working. It doesn't look good for Democrats because at the end of the day, ICE has a lot of money, so they're doing just fine. It's hurting things like the TSA and FEMA. So I think some are slowly starting to realize that this may not have been the winning battle. I know many were upset with Chuck Schumer because Schumer decided that he was going to make the deal on the other parts of the budget, which many Democrats are saying, well, there went all of our leverage. Some people are saying, and I have a couple quotes we'll get to later on because I've got some things on ICE, which that all ties in, but saying that we have no leverage here. It just looks bad because when you're asked, what does this do to stop ICE? Nothing. Nothing. It's hurting TSA and it's hurting FEMA and other government organizations. So I don't know if they're coming around or not. We'll see. Okay. But I do think that's why it's not getting as much coverage as it normally would, because I think the media is even seeing that it's not necessarily a winning battle. All right, as an update, remember when Hillary Clinton said, and Bill Clinton both, said in a statement that they weren't going to, I know things have changed since then, but weren't going to testify at the Jeffrey Epstein hearing because they were defending democracy. They were fighting for this country, so they weren't going to talk about Epstein. Well, then the contempt charge, all that came, and now they've switched their opinion, and now Hillary Clinton is very boisterous that it's a cover-up by Trump. But the reason I mention it is Bruce Springsteen announced his U.S. tour, and he's going on this U.S. tour in defense of America. All these people, I guess we're supposed to thank them for their service in their defense of America. He says that we are under attack by our wannabe king and his rogue government. We are living through dark, disturbing, and dangerous times. But do not despair. The cavalry is coming. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band will be taking the stage this spring from Minneapolis to California to Texas to Washington for the, quote, Land of Hope and Dreams America Tour. Boy, these people are full of themselves, aren't they? Boy, they have delusions of grandeur. Bruce Springsteen, do not despair, the cavalry is coming. And it happens to be Bruce Springsteen in defense of America. We will be rocking your town in celebration in defense of America, in defense of America. American democracy, American freedom, our American Constitution, and our sacred American dream, all of which are under attack by our wannabe king and his rogue government in Washington, D.C. Now, how is he going to do that? Because what is it? General admission tickets will probably cost about $200-300. So that works out really good. Sorry, my chair was going down. That works out really good to fight, I guess, in defense of America, American democracy, American freedom, by playing music where you're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars per performance. Enough on that. It just reminds me of that, this kind of delusion, this cockiness, this runaway egos of those on the left. It's no different than Billie Eilish getting up there and virtue signaling at the Grammys. It's all the same. They're in their echo chamber, and the people in his social group will all be saying, yeah, go fight for democracy. What a joke. Well, let's really fight for democracy and vote for the SAVE Act in the Senate. Did you see this? And I know a little bit of this is jumping around. A New York City Board of Elections worker said it is not his job to report anyone when asked about processing registrations for non-citizens, according to recently released hidden video footage. According to the undercover video captured by Muckraker, in which it is reported, or in which a reporter attempted to pose as a non-citizen, a worker said he would process applications for non-citizens, saying, quote, once in a while we have people come in here and they register they weren't a citizen. When the reporter claimed to the worker he was a green card holder from Canada, he was told he needed to be a citizen. I wouldn't fill it out, the worker said. You got to be a citizen to fill it out. We can't stop you from submitting the application, warning that people have the legal situations in which non-citizens attempt to register. So asked, the Board of Elections worker, when asked, says, it's not my job to report anyone when asked about registered non-citizens. All right. Continuing, do we have time? No. No, we don't. Let's take a short break, and then I have one other update before we get into AOC. Then we've got some international updates, a couple in New York. I don't know if you saw Mom Donnie's budget and this idea of hitting the people of New York City with property tax. And what was it, 9.5%? Now, to me, this reeks of what he did where he found the billions. Yeah, 9.5% property tax increase if wealth tax is not passed. That's what he's threatening to Hochul. This is why it would have been so great to have Stefanik in there. Because remember, Hochul endorsed Mom Donnie. Mom Donnie now endorsed Hochul. But a 9.5% property tax in New York City, a property tax increase if wealth tax is not passed. Now, this could be reminiscent of kind of what we see with school boards locally, where it scares people, 9.5%, and they say, we worked really hard, it's only 6%. And they go, oh, okay, 6% increase, great. Which, if of course they started at 6%, people would be outraged. It's kind of the trick as old as time. We can talk about that if you'd like, but we got to take another short break because I'm running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Allegiance flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Good job, buddy. Hey, buddy. It's time. Gotta go. Listen, I could be there in 15 minutes. Yep, see you soon. All right, you know the drill. Your brother could always do it. That's what I thought.
I just wanted to stop.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today, some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall down.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street, Corning. Some comments from viewers. Forget Bruce Springsteen, what a misfit. Not only that, given the hundreds of songs that he has written, only a handful from his first couple albums are worth listening to. Keep the cost of his upcoming concerts in your pocket. In a similar vein, a different viewer writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. Someone as trendy as the 76-year-old Bruce Springsteen has to be getting the senior citizen bus tours all excited. You're exactly right if you're just tuning in. He said that his new tour is to defend democracy, to fight for democracy. I don't get it. Rock and roll, quote unquote, if you want to call Bruce Springsteen that, has gotten so bland and cliche. What is actually rock and roll? What is actually punk? What is actually rebellious? And that is to be a Republican, to be a conservative. That's rebellious. Not going to these shows and having, just like the Grammys, and having everybody echo the same talking point. When did that become rebellion? What happened to defy authority? Now it is, hey, we want to be a part of authority. We want to be the quote unquote man. We want to be the man. All right. We talk often about these activists in the judicial system who will overturn something Trump did over and over again. And really, it's purely for political reasons. Well, legal experts and conservatives are taking aim at newly published ethics guidelines that, get this, allow federal judges to speak out on certain issues, arguing the guidance issued by the court's policy-making body is hypocritical and has been unfairly applied. At issue is new ethics guidelines published this month by the U.S. Judicial Conference, the national body led by Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts in his official capacity and tasked with setting policy for the federal courts. Now, it is unclear whether Roberts himself was directly involved in the guidance, but critics assailed it all the same. Article 3 project founder Mike Davis told Fox that Roberts is, quote, giving judicial saboteurs new tools for the courts to overstep. In a statement, he railed against the ethics guidelines as sabotaging the exercise of core Article 2 powers of the duly elected president. And another example in which he argued the federal judiciary has overstepped its powers. Quote, friendly reminder, when federal judges take off their judicial robes, climb into the political arena, and throw political punches, they should expect powerful political counterpunches, said Davis. In a departure from earlier guidance, the new advisory opinion states that judges may engage in a measured defense of the judiciary, including defending against illegitimate forms of criticism and attacks that risk undermining judicial independence or the rule of law, and doing so regardless of whether these comments rise to the level of persecution. So what this is in reference to is they don't like Trump and conservatives being critical of their activism. It goes on to list 4 areas of illegitimate activity identified by Chief Justice Roberts in his 2024 year-end report, including activities that either threaten the judges themselves or threaten the rule of law, violence, intimidation, disinformation, and threats to defy court orders. It does not follow, however, that every activity that involves the law or the legal system is considered permissible activity. The new guidance comes as Trump has assailed so-called rogue or activist judges who have paused or blocked some of his biggest policy priorities from taking effect during his second term as president. I know, a little wonky. Wanted to mention it to you. Hey, you want to look at the roof real quick? Sorry, my chair was sinking again. All right. AOC, when we return, is not happy. Not happy with the coverage she received from all of her word salads, flubs, mistakes, errors at Munich. Because remember, she was going on the world stage, and she wanted to prove that she and her foreign policy chops were all ready for the White House. But what does not happen to AOC in the legacy media and the mainstream media was she received criticism. That's not supposed to happen in her mind. That is a no-no. You don't, as the media, do anything but defend AOC. And trust me, we read some of those on yesterday's broadcast where they did everything. Humbled was like the worst word I think we used, that she was humbled because it wasn't perfect. But others saying, oh no, she was succinct and clear with just a couple minor issues. Again, coverage that a Republican would never receive if they gave a similar speech. And that's why I continue to say that a Democrat could never handle being in the position that Republicans are, with the constant criticism by the media, the legacy media. And that is why, to prove my point, AOC is complaining about actually receiving some negative, even if it was with kid gloves, negative treatment with her speech at Munich. So we are going to talk about that when we return. I see some more of your comments coming in. Sure, talk about Bruce Springsteen. The question we are asking this morning, as Carol was kind enough to send in an email yesterday that I missed, and I apologize. What do you think of Rubio being put at the top of the ticket and then Vance VP again? Now, I know it's very early to talk about these type of things, but it's something to consider, kind of a fun mental game. Would that be, as of right now, Rubio seems very popular, would that be the way to go in your opinion? And we'll see what your comments have to say. And like I said, there's actually a piece of CNN that was somewhat positive towards Trump and what is happening in Venezuela that I think is worth mentioning. Maybe a couple New York State updates. I don't want to talk too much about Mamdani's 9.5% property tax increase proposal. I don't want to talk about that necessarily in too much depth, but we probably will a little bit. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
To them used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today, some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Either way, Vance Rubio, Rubio Vance, they are both winners. Thank you very much. And that was coming from the question that we've been asking this morning. Your thoughts? Mark writes in, I see Democrats sent a counter offer to GOP on the partial government shutdown. Do you know what that offer is? Sure. It's to overhaul immigration enforcement. Now, we know the funding lapsed. Again, the irony of it is it's not affecting ICE. And yes, we're going to talk about AOC here in a minute. A short-term funding extension aimed at giving negotiators more time to reach a deal ended late last week without a resolution. Though Democrats in the White House traded proposals and draft legislation. A spokesman for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer confirmed Democrats made their latest offer late Monday, but details weren't immediately clear. So we don't have a lot of information. Lawmakers are away from Washington on recess. A White House official said that the parties are still pretty far apart. Spokespeople for Schumer And House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said later Tuesday they've continued working through language and additional issues to make progress, but Republicans have largely ignored the core guardrails Americans are demanding. I don't think this is working for them because, again, their shutdown is not affecting ICE. It's affecting FEMA, TSA, and others. So there you go. Just very little's known, Mark, but thank you for the question. So her first big trip overseas, and AOC expresses her frustration. How dare the media suggest she didn't walk on water to get over to Munich. The Congresswoman argued in an interview that presidential speculation, which included scrutiny of her slip-ups, had overshadowed her anti-authoritarian message at the Munich Security Conference. So she's mad because people weren't focusing on the important issue, the anti-authoritarian message. This was in an interview to the New York Times. The New York Times saying, to Miss Ocasio-Cortez, the discourse about her visit had missed the more important point about the risk of authoritarianism, an argument that she said had been well received by the Europeans during 2 foreign policy panels, private meetings with German leaders, and an address in a packed university auditorium in Berlin. After interviewing the far-left squad lawmaker following her appearance at the high-profile forum, the New York Times released this piece. AOC argued that conservatives seized on any 5 to 10 second thing from her gaffe-filled remarks in an effort to distract from the substance of what I was saying. The New York Times author, Browning, acknowledged that the progressive firebrand's missteps at the conference were striking, describing her as a politician who is usually quick on her feet and one of the best communicators in politics. See, they have to prove their bona fides. They can't go all in with criticism of AOC. We know that. So still has to put in that she's usually quick on her feet, one of the best communicators in politics. But it wasn't just conservatives that had to report on it. I mean, if you're trying to get to the national stage, you got to be ready for it. The National Review wrote, one could dissect her words for the next 10 years straight with the best of intentions, and still one would not glean anything coherent or useful from them. But again, just saying anti-authoritarian, talking about fighting the oligarchy, AOC normally gets praise for these type of things. So to get pushback is shocking to her. This wasn't the fault, said Charles Cook, of conservative social media or rocketing or speculation. It was the fault of Ocasio-Cortez herself, who went to a security conference, was asked questions about security, and fell flat on her face at the first hurdle, as she couldn't answer basic questions like if China attacks Taiwan, what we should do. I think that this is this is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States, was her answer. Vice President J.D. Vance called AOC's response embarrassing, suggesting the Congresswoman ought to go read a book about China and Taiwan before stepping on the world stage. Quote, I think Ocasio-Cortez is a person who doesn't know what she actually thinks. And I have seen this way too much in Washington with politicians, where they're given lines, and when you ask them to go outside the lines they were given, they completely fall apart. Because look, does anybody really believe that AOC has very thoughtful ideas about the global world order or about what the United States should do with our policy in Asia or our policy in Europe? No, this is a person who is mouthing the slogans that somebody else gave her. The New York Times also came under fire, with critics likening the outlet to a public relations firm for allowing Ocasio-Cortez to use Browning to rehab her appearance at the conference. That's exactly what this was. This is a way for her to kind of wash away the stains of the mistakes she made. Some guy named Kellen is running a PR campaign for AOC's presidential strategy while saying he is a reporter. Pro tip, Kellen, if you use the phrase far right, then AOC is far left. You got to have it both ways. Journalist Rachel Bade argued that Ocasio-Cortez's complaints in the story seem pretty whiny and only give her critics more fodder. The most surprising thing about all of this is her apparent surprise that she's being scrutinized. Well, that's exactly what it is. She does not like the questions. She does not like being written about in any way that isn't glowing. Again, proving the point that a Democrat could never handle being a Republican for even a second. And leave it to the New York Times to give her a PR piece to try to resurrect her image after that. All right, we got to take a break, and then we're going to wrap up our number one. Stay with us.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you can throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today. Some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall down.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments as we wrap up our number one. Comment from a viewer: ICE is fully funded and the most liberal parts of government are shut down. FEMA and TSA are full of liberals that discriminate against Republicans. Hope Democrats hold out till it hurts. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer: just a thought. Maybe Schumer might become a rock star if he joins Springsteen's tour. He could be a backup singer or even a dancer. Yeah, they're right around the same age. If you wonder why we're bringing up Springsteen, he said he's going on tour to defend America and that he is going to, I guess, defend democracy. And he's, almost a war hero at this point. Comment from a different viewer: good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Jack writes in, I asked AI about term limits for VP. There is no constitutional term limits for the Vice President of the United States, unlike the President, who is limited to 2 terms by the 22nd Amendment. A Vice President can serve an unlimited number of 4-year terms. Since JD has done such a good job as VP, I think the best use for him would be to stay on as VP. He's young enough to be able to be president after 8 years. Rubio would bring in his supporters and Trump's. This would allow JD time to get better familiar with politics. And if you are just joining us, that comes from not even a question that Carol posed, but just Carol sent in yesterday saying that she believes that it would be a better ticket as Rubio-Vance, Rubio being the presidential candidate, Vance being the VP. We were just having a little fun this morning talking about it. Mark says, seems to me AOC and Hochul have a lot of common. They both fail on stage when asked questions. I agree. Very much, I've overused the term with Hochul, not ready for prime time, but that's what they started to use for AOC, and it was very reminiscent of that. They're like a few steps behind where they need to be when it comes to questions and just having the knowledge. Because to J.D. Vance's point, is she actually studying global politics? No. People fed her lines, and so when she was asked a question she wasn't prepared for, like about Taiwan, we saw that answer. But luckily for her, the New York Times said, we're here to save you. Yes, you embarrassed yourself, but we don't want this to end. So we are going to do essentially a press release for you to make it sound like the coverage wasn't fair because you were extremely popular in Munich and that the right-wing media was highlighting 5 or 10-second clips to try to destroy her. Not able to handle, so thin-skinned, not able to handle even a little criticism, and justified criticism. But we got to take a break. Get ready for our number 2. Stay with us.
Allegiance flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Do you have cabin fever? Are you dreaming of warmer weather? Now's the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today, some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall down.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A quick reminder, on Friday's broadcast, we're going to be joined by Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski, former congressman, current chair of the Steuben County Republican Committee. So we'll be talking with Joe on Friday. Okay, comment from a viewer. AOC is clearly being asked questions that are out of her field of expertise. Questions about the perfect mixed drink could be more appropriate. Yes, she did come from a bartending background. That is very true. But just to think of and I don't want to belabor this, we've talked enough about it, but just to think of the fact that the New York Times, that's how bad she did, they came in to save the day and send out that press release, essentially. Speaking of the squad, though, Democrat squad representative Ilhan Omar needs to be investigated for filing, quote, misleading disclosures to Congress regarding her husband's $30 million net worth, according to a government watchdog. The National Legal and Policy Center, a conservative nonprofit based in Virginia, wants the Office of Congressional Conduct to immediately investigate Omar's disclosures, which showed her third husband, Tim Minett's assets exploded in worth from 2023 to 2024. According to the paperwork she filed to Congress, Minette went from being worth just over $51,000 one year to nearly $30 million the next. Quote, the information in Omar's financial disclosures and her public statements about her finances are simply implausible. There needs to be a real investigation, said the chairman, Peter Flaherty. Wow. 51,000 to nearly 30 million. And I know we talked about it, and I know some outlets have talked about it, but it's really been brushed aside. Just like the investigations into fraud when it came to the daycare centers in Minneapolis. Oh, one other thing, I don't want to talk too much about the media. I want to talk about this international issue, but Jimmy Kimmel, a man of the people like Bruce Springsteen, is going to headline a $25,000 per ticket LA fundraiser for House Democrats next month. You must pony up $25,000 to attend the March 10th reception and dinner for House Democrats. Higher price tickets range from $44,300 for the Leader Circle to $310,100 for the Jeffries 300 level. Kimmel is billed as the event's special guest, just below former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Wow. And I saw Stephen Colbert, we don't have to go into all of that, but ripping his own station, CBS, for pulling an interview we had with James Tellerico. Now, the argument can be made, and I think that's the argument because CBS kind of threw Colbert under the bus after Colbert threw CBS under the bus. I think the reasoning is when you talk about equal time, there's that primary going on for Senate in Texas. And James Tellerico is in a race with Jasmine Crockett. And there's probably others too. So they're concerned with the way the FCC's language recently has come out, that they're concerned that that could have been a fine. I'm not going to read Stephen Colbert's quote-unquote jokes because talk about low-hanging fruit. We talk about this too much in the past, but I guess you tune into his show just to clap like a seal when he says something about the orange bad man and this kind of baby and diaper jokes. Honest to goodness, how... Well, I know he's not on much longer, but I mean, I don't even care if you hate Trump. Don't you want something new and clever after a while? So CBS went on to respond to this, saying they could not air an interview with James Tellerico. And I can't find the, where is it? Anyway, we don't need to hear their whole statement, but it's funny because Jasmine Crockett, who is in that tight race with James Tellerico, said, we actually received a phone call, and that was a little bit earlier today. And in that call, they explained they actually told CBS that they could go ahead and move forward with the interview with James Tellerico, that they just needed to offer me equal time. I did not get a request from Colbert's show to go on. As you know, I've been on Colbert multiple times. And frankly, if we would have gotten an offer, that would have been great. But we're in the middle of early voting. So I'm kind of focused on being in Texas at the moment. And, I don't know what to believe. That's for sure. But I got that phone call as I was out talking to voters. We didn't have any issue. I mean, we've never run into an issue with Colbert. And even as you talked about The View, supposedly this FCC complaint came about because I had more time than Mr. Tellerico when I went on there after I had declared my candidacy. So, listen, I will tell you that. I have no love for Barry Wise. I have no love for Brendan Carr whatsoever. But I do think, as you also mentioned, Kimmel, it is important that we resist in this moment. And so there was a number of options that could be put on the table. And frankly, the Late Show decided this was the option. I think that it was a good strategy. I mean, look at what happened when they tried, I don't know what this is. We found out that you could get a lot more views. So I think it's probably gave my opponent the ABC he was looking for us. That ABC was looking for us. So I think it's probably better that he didn't get on and they went straight to streaming, because we know that when we resist and when we know that it seems like they're trying to change the rules and bend the knee to this president, that it backfires in historic fashion. Enough on that. I don't know why I brought that up. Oh, one other update on bias in the media before we talk about some international stories. Former ABC News host Terry Moran was on MSN Now. I want to get your take on this. We've asked a lot of questions this morning. Your thoughts on should it be Marco Vance or Vance Marco? We've talked. What are some of the other questions? Bruce Springsteen. Well, Terry Moran said, well, the message is un-American, right? Now, let me take a step back. I actually have to tell you what Jen Psaki said. It's notable that all this is happening. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who once criticized Orban and strongmen like him, was praising Orban and strongman leaders like him in Munich. He's obviously Orban, who I think people watched know this had the long story, blah, 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 blah. So Moran said, well, the message is un-American, right? If you look at what Orban has done with him, with the media, and about Marco Rubio, it tells a tale about his character. A lot of Republicans have that same character. They manage not just to change with the prevailing winds, but to change their fundamental principles, the reasons they got into Congress in the first place. I do not understand how a man does that or a woman does that. I don't understand. Rubio does speak eloquently. He gives a good speech. So Republicans just change with the wind. All right, I have to mention this from CNN. I thought this was really interesting. So I wondered why there hadn't been a lot of coverage of what it was like on the ground in Venezuela since the capture of Maduro. I think we now know, and CNN's Stefano Posban reported on it, much, I'm sure, to CNN's chagrin. But he says it is less than 2 months since Maduro's capture. And it's hard to overstate how different the South American country now feels. There's a new buzz and optimism that, to be frank, I've never seen before. I moved to Caracas in 2016. In the decade that followed, Venezuela saw it all. A quarter of the population fled, a catastrophic economic collapse, crime rates exploded before gradually yielding in the aftermath of COVID. Anti-Maduro demonstrators took to the streets year after year, only to be overpowered by tear gas and rubber bullets. Yet throughout it all, Maduro ruled on, seemingly unmovable. And okay, so there's a buzz, there's an excitement, and then towards the end, it's actually the last little segment. Did Trump get this right? Question mark. So that's the headline of this segment. Did Trump get it right? Which is already a biased way of wording that, right? Because that's presenting it with the assumption that Trump never gets it right. So in this case, did he actually do it? Similar caution was palatable among several diplomats I spoke to. The consensus, at least among the international community, is that Venezuela is taking the first small steps towards democracy, but it should not be rushed. No haste, but not hesitation, is something I heard from more than one source, most of whom asked not to be identified by name as they were not authorized to speak with the media. Throughout 2025, the growing confrontation between Maduro and Donald Trump seemed to leave no good options for Venezuela. Sandwiched as it was between an authoritarian government and a threatened foreign intervention that reminded some of Iraq circa 2003. In the end, the foreign intervention took place, but was far less bloody than feared, and since then, the incoming personnel from the U.S. have been diplomats and oil executives rather than Marines. It means going slow. Nobody has toppled any statues of Maduro yet, but also avoiding the mistakes of the forever wars. What has changed is that today feels better than yesterday, and Venezuela believes in the opportunity to make tomorrow even better. The change of mentality is profound, even with the obstacles left behind by 12 years of authoritarianism. Nobody in Caracas is fooling themselves. The country is on its knees, and a lot of work is required before Venezuela can be great again, but even the harshest critics must acknowledge the enthusiasm. Perhaps the most surreal conversation I had was not hearing a president singing capitalism praise, or friends who have been out of the country for 8 years finally looking for a flight to Caracas, but a European diplomat who, after a long pause, told me, quote, "At least for now, we've got to admit that Trump got this one right." The final line in the post from CNN, having to get the weakest of credit to President Trump, but still pretty shocking that they even went that far. Also with Cuba, there's no food, no fuel, no tourism. Under U.S. pressure, life in Cuba is grinding to a halt. And this is a different piece from Patrick Ottman, but also from CNN. So struggling there. We got a couple of updates on international policy. Zelensky warns Ukrainians would never forgive the U.S. for ceding Donbass to Russia as part of a peace deal that is not fair. Emotionally, people will never forgive this. Never. They will not forgive me. They will not forgive the U.S., he told Axios. This is part of our country, all these citizens, the flag, the land. The president said it was not fair that President Trump has called on Ukraine and not Russia to make concessions to reach a peace deal. Any change to the country's recognition of its land would require a referendum approved by the Ukrainian people, according to Kiev's constitution. Special envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner have been working to rapidly seal a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine that would see Kiev give up even the roughly 15% to 20% of the Donbass that it still controls, turning it into a free economic zone. Anyway, on the Iran front, the U.S. sent over 50 fighter jets to the Middle East in military buildup against Iran. Even after those conversations, those discussions, it was said that progress was made in Geneva. The United States military has moved over 50 fighter jets to the Middle East in the last 24 hours as part of its buildup of air and naval assets near Iran, according to Axios. A host of F-16, F-22s, and F-35 jets were observed heading to the Middle East by independent flight trackers. Now, Iran fired some missiles towards the Strait of Hormuz, while its supreme leader, Ayatollah al-Khamenei, warned that the U.S. warships deployed in the Gulf could be sunk amid nuclear talks between the two countries. Quote, "We constantly hear that the U.S., have sent a warship towards Iran. A warship is certainly a dangerous weapon, but even more dangerous is the weapons capable of sinking it," in that veiled threat. Now, we learned a little bit about how they were a paper tiger before, but they are still, in their typical fashion, full of bluster. Now, Iran says understanding has been reached with the United States as Geneva nuclear talks conclude. we'll see how that goes. According to Reuters, the initial meetings resulted in an understanding on main principles between the U.S. and Iran. All right, we got to move along here because we got some ICE updates, and I'm hoping to get to some New York updates. Anyway, we got a lot to cover. Stay with us. I see some comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
From exceptional member service to easy, reliable, and secure digital banking and a deep commitment to the communities we call home, First Heritage is proud to be part of our members' everyday lives. That's why we're honored to be named Best Credit Union in the Twin Tiers 5 years in a row and Best Locally Owned Business in 2025. To our members, thank you for your trust, your loyalty, and your votes. And if you're not yet a member, visit fhfcu.org or stop by your local branch and see for yourself what makes First Heritage the best.
Say is a veteran. He was a combat medic in the Army.
I did tours in Korea, Germany, and Bosnia before I got injured.
There's been a lot of wear and tear on his body.
My knees are bone on bone from doing all those jumps and lugging my backpack and all that gear around. I was also exposed to toxins.
When Yusuf got out of the military, he needed help getting his disability benefits.
Luckily, DAV came to the rescue. They fought for me the same way that I fought for my country.
Every year, DAV provides life-changing support to more than 1 million veterans like Yusuf, helping them get the benefits they've earned so they can achieve victories, great and small.
Now Yusuf is paying it forward. DAV has been instrumental in helping him start 2 healthcare technology companies that are working to help veterans everywhere.
My victory is never giving up and finding more ways to serve.
He's pretty amazing.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today, some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall down.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. The fiscally irresponsible one-party New York State government and their actions are irrational at best. It's time for a Minnesota-style federal investigation into fraud in New York State. $34 billion in debt. And these fools are spending money like they're making their own. Oh, wait, the feds are making their own with their quantitative easing. Thank you very much. All right. Talking about ICE, people said, what's kind of the end game here when it comes to the government shutdown? Well, first of all, I thought Representative Don Bacon, who was on, I got a frog in my throat, excuse me, hold on, who was on MSN Now, said, I believe the president saw the pushback of what was going on in Minneapolis. He took the feedback and he put Director Holman in charge of these operations. And you can already tell that he's turned down the volume, turned down the heat. He's reduced the presence of ICE in Minneapolis. I think there's already a course correction going on here, and it's because, the president and the leadership team saw the polling and saw the pushback. I do think Americans are rightfully divided on this whole topic. I mean, even our own party, the Republican Party, isn't sold to should we deport all folks who came here illegally? Should we have a heart, or should we deport all folks who came here illegally, I guess that means? Or should we focus on those who have a criminal record, like gang members? There's many Republicans, and I don't know many Democrats who worry about deporting folks who have been here 5 years, came here illegally, perhaps, but are working, taking care of a family. And I'd like to find maybe a middle path here. I don't really blame the secretary for that. Ultimately, Congress has to debate this and come up with a better policy. Democrat Representative Dina Titus from Nevada acknowledged that the shutdown hurts TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard, and we can't cut off money for ICE due to the fact that they're funded. They can do whatever they want. This was on Bloomberg's Balance of Power. Titus said the shutdown really hurts Nevada. If you don't have TSA, our tourism is already negatively impacted by this administration, and this will just hurt more. And there's such an easy solution. Pull those out. Pull out FEMA, pull out TSA, pull out the Coast Guard, fund them, and send them on their way, and then deal with the safeguards that we can put into place with ICE. We can't cut off their money, meaning ICE's money, because they got all that money back in the big, beautiful bill. So they're funded. They can do whatever they want. They've got the 16th largest military budget in the world, but we could put those guardrails in place. Representative Jake Auchinclose, a Democrat from Maryland, blamed the DHS shutdown on, quote, the false choice put forward by Republicans who have control over the House, the Senate, and the White House. He was on CNN News Central, saying they failed by the false choice put forward by Republicans who have control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. The false choice is that if you want to be able to go through an airport and have TSA screen you in an expeditious manner, if you want the Coast Guard to, I think that means intercept drugs, and then somehow you must also want to accept that ICE can act as thugs and disregard the rule of law and due process. I think Americans are smart enough to know that the choice is bogus, that they're going to refuse to be gaslit by this administration. In Washington, you use the power that you have at the moment, that you have that leverage. And we're going to use the power that we have as a party to reflect America's demands for individual freedom and respect for the rule of law. Yeah, if there's one thing we're seeing with the anti-ICE protesters, it's the respect for the rule of law. He also said ICE has tons of money despite the shutdown, and that he wishes Democrats had more agencies to leverage. He said, you're right. The ICE was given a blank check last year. Republicans tripled its budget such that now there's more money going towards ICE than there is towards crime, gun trafficking, corruption, counterterrorism combined at the federal level. I think Americans think that is a misallocation of resources and priorities, and they want to see that if there is going to be further appropriations towards ICE, that those appropriations come with policy riders that reflect rule of law, due process, and protection of civil rights. Democrats had more leverage when the appropriations process had 6 different funding bills as opposed to just one in front of us, which is why it was frustrating to see 21 Democrats deflect and vote with Republicans to fund those 5 other bills. But in Washington, you use the power that you have at the moment, that you have that leverage. And we are all going to use the power that we have as a party to reflect America's demands for individuals. So that was a dig at Schumer. See, many in the party are upset. With the appropriations, the only one that was left to negotiate was this one. And again, you're talking about cutting funding from the Coast Guard, FEMA, TSA, and ICE is still very well funded. Now, we do have to take another short break. We're going to talk a little bit more here about ICE. If you are just joining us, because we just got a slew of waves coming in. If you are just joining us, we had a couple questions on the table this morning. Carol asked yesterday during the broadcast, and I missed it. Not asked. She stated that she believes that Marco Rubio should be at the top of Republican ticket for 2028 and J.D. Vance VP again. So we've been having that conversation this morning. We also talked about AOC complaining to the New York Times. The New York Times is very happy to send out that essentially press release for her, protecting her, defending her, and her trip to Munich. But she was complaining about the bad coverage she got because she had so many flubs, so many mistakes, so many errors, really embarrassing herself. And she's not used to any kind of negative coverage. Everything's always glowing coverage, right? How many stories have we seen? She's going to be senator. She's going to take Chuck Schumer's place. No, never mind that. Let's talk about president. Those are the kind of stories that she gets. She's not used to attention being drawn to her mistakes or errors, and these are huge mistakes. This was supposed to be her first step on the road to the White House, and she tripped. She didn't like being called on it. Again, proving that a Democrat could never handle being a Republican for one day in the media cycle, that's for sure. But she was not prepared for the pushback and the questioning of her quote-unquote bona fides. So the New York Times, doing their due diligence to prove that they are still loyal, put out a nice piece. And there's only a couple little things. And listen, she's doing great. She's not used to it. So we've been talking about that. And Bruce Springsteen saying he's going on tour to defend democracy, defend the country. So I don't know. I guess we're supposed to thank him for his service. A little confused there. So he is defending our country by charging you, probably $300 a ticket for general admission in the nosebleeds. This is the same Bruce Springsteen that lectured people about the 1%, the rich, nasty 1%, again, as he was charging you $300 for general admission tickets and raking in millions. All right, we got to take a break, though. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard them, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.gov.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Just as an update, as we get ready to talk about ICE, a masked brute who went on the lam after hurling huge cinder blocks at ICE cruisers during a riot in L.A. will be facing up to 20 years in prison. Elpidio Reyna, 41, was caught on video slinging rocks at the vehicles as they raced past him during the attack near Home Depot in Paramount on June the 7th. He ended up on the FBI's most wanted list after going on the run, but was cuffed by the same agent he targeted a month later at the U.S.-Mexico border. So just an update on that story, facing up to 20 years. Now, L.A. school bosses have been condemned, or let me reword that. LA's schools boss, so that the person in charge, why they would word it that way, the person in charge of LA schools, has been condemned for his anti-ICE rants as more students across the city prepare to walk out of classrooms to protest ICE. Los Angeles Unified Superintendent Alberto Carvalho is one of the nation's top educators. He's also been a very vocal critic of federal immigration enforcement. Quote, immoral, unethical, and illegal is how he characterized some of the federal government's tactics at a press conference in September. This is what you want to hear from your superintendent. A new level of despicable insult is how he referred to a video he shared online. Let's see. But cops are currently asking protesters, no matter what the rhetoric is from their superintendent, to tone it down. Where is it here? California State Superintendent candidate Sonia Shaw said fewer than half of the students in Carvero's Los Angeles Unified School District can read or write at a grade level. That's the real crisis here. How about for a change we focus on literacy and science instead of chaos and violence? After 3 consecutive weeks of raucous, sometimes violent protests involving students, the LA Police Department has asked the city's teens to stay in class rather than protest ICE. And we know these young people, even if they don't care about what's happening with ICE, this is a chance to kind of party. This is what we saw at college campuses a lot, that it wasn't really about the issue. For a lot of them it is, don't get me wrong. But for some it isn't. It's just it's just an opportunity to not get in trouble for destroying things, for rioting. Adding to the enforcement, U.S. Attorney Bill Easley has made one thing clear. His office has zero tolerance for out-of-control student protesters and that they will be criminally prosecuted. Now, some states are preventing schools from leading anti-ICE walkouts. The fact that we have to have this conversation, the schools have become this breeding ground for protests. That's really what you're kind of majoring in from K through 12 and then in college. Imagine going to your place of employment if you work at some factory and saying, all right, I know we're here to make widgets, but I don't like what's happening with ICE, so we're all going to get out and protest. But that's what the teachers are encouraging their students to do. Texas and Florida officials are stepping up to put a halt to these dangerous school walkouts. Just over a week ago, Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott warned Texas school kids that there will be consequences if they skip school to attend anti-ICE riots. Now, to follow up on that, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has announced that 3 independent school districts are being investigated for facilitating student protests against lawful immigration enforcement. I will not allow Texas schools to become breeding grounds for the radical left's open borders agenda, Paxton said. A growing number of national teachers unions have jumped headlong into using children to push their open borders agenda, including the National Education Association, which is even fundraising on pushing its propaganda on kids. Florida is another state where officials are pushing back after a Florida teachers union made the claim that participating in anti-ICE protests is required. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis took aim at the radical teachers and wrote that our kids are not pawns for political activism. Education, not indoctrination. Since the governor made his comments, Florida's education chief, Stacey Camotes, derided the Florida Education Association for attempting to force kids to take to the streets. Quote, in the background of the statement, were union members here in Florida nodding along with the messaging? Totally inappropriate, totally unacceptable, yet there was no condemnation from the union. How am I doing? Okay, we're doing okay. Linda Deno writes, she is an Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and Administration at the University of Arizona College of Applied Science and Technology. That's a mouthful. She said, enough with the gaslighting on ICE. In his February 15th appearance on CNN's State of the Union, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer delivered a masterclass in political gaslighting. He branded Immigration and Customs Enforcement a rogue force, out of control, and almost trained to be nasty and mean and cruel. Schumer decried masked agents conducting warrantless operations, roving patrols that bash indoors, secret police tactics reminiscent of what you see in dictatorships, and bemoaned chaos, secrecy, and zero accountability. He tied this to isolated incidents in Minneapolis involving the deaths of U.S. citizens during enforcement actions, framing ICE as terrorizing innocent Americans and everyday immigrant families. This is all nonsense. But there's more. Democrats, he insisted, demand common sense guardrails, which include no ICE agents wearing masks, body cameras always on, judicial warrants for every entry, an end to roving patrols, and stricter use of force policies. Democrats insist on these demands and have partially shut down the government by refusing to fund DHS. Schumer's portrayal inverts reality. ICE is not a rogue agency, but a federal law enforcement body executing the immigration executing the immigration statutes passed by Congress and directed by the elected president. Its methods: administrative warrants for civil remove orders, tactical gear including masks for officers' protection, amid a documented 1,300% surge in assaults and an 8,000% increase in death threats since the current enforcement push began, are standard for high-risk operations. FBI hostages, rescues, DEA raids on fentanyl labs, and even local SWAT teams routinely employ masks, anonymity, and dynamic entry when facing armed threats or doxing risks. Local police are unmasked in routine traffic stops, but they do not regularly confront transnational cartels, MS-13 affiliates, or activist networks that publish officers' home addresses. Schumer's select outrage ignores that other agencies operate under similar standards of force, without being labeled secret police. The Minneapolis case, while tragic, do not represent systemic violence or terrorizing. They are outliers in operations overwhelmingly targeting individuals with final removal orders or criminal histories. Enforcing immigration law is existential to U.S. sovereignty. Unrestricted illegal immigration erodes the societal contract, depresses wages for low-skilled American workers, and burdens taxpayers with education, health care, and welfare costs estimated in the tens of billions annually. The Democrats insist on hobbling ICE is not about accountability. It is a transparent cover for their strategic embrace of unrestricted illegal immigration. Blue states, like here in New York, are hemorrhaging native-born residents to red state havens with lower taxes, better governance, and economic opportunity. Without a continuous influx of non-citizens, legal and illegal, states like California and New York face accelerating population decline, lost federal funding, and crucially, fewer House seats in the House. Of course, I don't know why I'm struggling with that. Fewer House seats in the apportionment. The Constitution counts persons for representation, not just citizens, so every illegal immigrant in a sanctuary city inflates California's delegation that aggregates to extra electoral power. Democrats' resistance to enforcement, sanctuary policies, and opposition to citizenship questions in the census are not humanitarian. They're raw power preservation. Schumer continuously asserts that Americans overwhelmingly support his common sense demands in yet another attempt to justify the partial shutdown. Recent polling does show some support for this narrative, with the majority calling ICE tactics too aggressive. Of course, the media have constantly mischaracterized isolated incidents and framed these incidents as ICE terrorizing, quote, innocent Americans. So there's no mystery why overall dissatisfaction with ICE's enforcement methods have increased. Add to that shadowy hand of left-wing mega donors pulling strings behind these anti-ICE protests, turning what looks like spontaneous outrage into well-oiled machines aimed at crippling border security. Polls often reflect the noise, not the merits, and the left has been diligent about creating as much noise as possible. Americans are not turning soft on illegal immigration. They're reacting to politicized and overdramatic tragedy in real time. It is incredible that a major political party is openly siding with criminal aliens over the safety, wages, housing access, and sovereignty of American citizens. Vigorous ICE enforcement is not nasty. It is necessary restoration of order. The American people rejected open border chaos in 2024. Americans should not be gaslit into believing that ICE or the Trump administration has crossed some unacceptable line. Hardworking American taxpayers who play by the rules deserve borders that work, laws that mean something, and representatives who put the safety and prosperity of citizens above crass political gain. I thought that was a very good piece by Linda Denmo. We got a couple other things on this. We're going to move along. Stay with us. I see some comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business. Everyone knows William Attar. Everyone knows James Cook. But what you probably don't know is that they bonded when Bill suggested to let James cook.
Delicious.
And James said they should just share the number 4.
Nice.
Now they're teaming up to raise money for Build Promise.
Get this t-shirt at buildpromise.com.
For a limited time, if you purchase this t-shirt, a portion of the proceeds go to Build Promise.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for checking in. Kind of a soggy day today, some scattered rain showers. 44, though, is our high, and that is above average here by almost 5 to 10 degrees. Of course, looking at the temperatures here into the 40s, maybe a little cooler to the north. But again, the showers are going to be lifting north, and then we dry out briefly on Thursday at 47. More rain moving in Friday, and then cooling down into the weekend with a chance for some scattered snow showers Sunday as we fall.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Still plenty to cover. Oh, Thomas Massey, who is kind of... I did have a comment. Wait, whoa. Here we go. Mark says, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I think it was smart to keep ICE funded as they are not only deporting illegals, they're getting rid of a lot of crime caused by illegals. I'm all in for ICE doing their job. The reason Democrats are furious is they're losing illegal votes. Yes, illegal votes, and as that piece mentioned, redistricting numbers. They are doing their job, and the media is hyping this idea that they are kind of this violent rogue group. Chuck Schumer happy to play along with that. So you raise a very good point, Mark. Thank you. Thomas Massey, who's been making a name for himself being kind of anti-Trump, loving the attention he's getting. They did a glowing piece at Politico about him. Thomas Massey's ominous prediction for the GOP. Representative Thomas Massey has gone toe-to-toe with the President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, and the Attorney General in just the last few months, and he says there's more to come. The Libertarian Republican from rural Kentucky has long been a headache for party leaders. I don't want to go through all this because this is why Republicans do this, right? And they talked about his heated interaction with Bondi. I don't want to talk about that. But he sent out what they're saying, an ominous warning that you're going to see more defections. I guess that means from the Republican Party. You're going to see more people turning on Trump. Here we go. The question was asked, Trump often wields power on Capitol Hill through intimidation and fear. That's, I think, the lie that's always pushed, and we've seen it at a local level all the way up, that Republicans are scared of Trump, that there's no way that Republicans could ever support his policies. It's just that they're terrified of him. That is the argument they push because it makes it easier so they don't have to have a debate in good faith. That there are actually Republicans, just like the landslide amount of people that voted for President Trump not last November, the November before. Yes, there are people that actually support his positions, but they try to present that everybody's just loyal because they're scared and intimidated. But I'll continue. That obviously has not broken through on the Epstein matter as much. Several of you defied him on tariffs as well. How is that toolkit wearing thin for him, that he's not able to badger enough Republicans into falling in line? Again, Politico showing their bias as well, but Tom Massey eating it up, saying the margin is razor thin. So any given day, I would just need one or two of my own co-conspirators, very full of himself, to get something done. And what's happening is that the retirement caucus is growing and primary days are coming up and passing. Once we get past March, April, and May, which contain a large portion of the Republican primaries, I think you're going to see more defections. Because quietly and privately, people are telling me that they agree with me. And so there are people who will plan on running again who will be past their primaries, or certainly past that day at which the administration could put another Navy SEAL up to run against somebody. And then that's the wow. What a smug way to present the fact that there were Navy SEALs running in primaries. Anyway, and then there's the retirement caucus, which includes people who don't want to retire, but redistricting is going to make them or pit them against another Republican when they may retire for that reason. I think some's fatigue. I call it rubber stamp fatigue. People who get elected to Congress, almost none of you got here by mistake. Everybody got flaws, but everybody who gets here is driven and probably could accomplish other things besides Congress with this level of drive. They could be entrepreneurs or make a lot of money as lawyers. Nobody graduates from high school and signs in their yearbook that they want to be the class rubber stamp. And so you have competent, driven individuals. Some of these are military officers who are being told every week to stand down, bite their tongues, sit on their hands, do what they're told, be part of the team, and put their brain in neutral. And that kind of job will make you tired by noon. Why am I giving you so much? Why am I giving Thomas Massey so much time? That's a good question. Let's go to New York issues as we get ready, because we only got about 15 minutes left as we wrap up today's edition. Though I do see a lot of great comments come in, which we'll get to in the next segment. I got to take a short break. We're going to talk about NYSEG wants to raise the rates. We also have a few things here about Mamdani, because there's a lot going on there. Maybe a few other last-minute things if we have the time. So keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
When you're searching for an exceptional spirit, your journey begins here at Foster's. With our expertly curated selection, Foster's will help you find just the right wine or spirit for the occasion. Foster's. Elevate your spirits.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go through some viewer comments. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. I think the U.S. already had a nuclear deal with Iran. Someone named Trump ended that in his first term. Now he wants a nuclear deal with Iran. We can call it the Donald Trump-Iran nuclear deal. Has a nice ring to it. Let me ask, before I continue with what you had to say, Rick, were you happy with Obama's Iran nuclear deal? We know that they were working on actually having nuclear weapons, so I don't think it was what you would call successful for its overall goal. But if you were happy with the Obama one, I think that's a fair question to ask. Because now that Trump's negotiating something, it's not good. With Obama, that gets a little confusing for me. But okay. I'm glad Rick continues, I'm glad Trump had some kind words for Jesse Jackson on Tuesday. And finally, another tidbit. Trump's second term popularity is minus 20 points across the board, across 4 different polls. Minus 19 to minus 26. He's a record holder. They should give him a defeatist prize for that effort. All right. I mean, listen, I think everybody knows my thoughts on polls. I'm not a big fan of polls, but let's put that aside. I know that there was one legitimate poll that happened a little over a year ago in November. Not 2024. That seemed to be a pretty effective poll. I mean, you can keep throwing numbers at me for the next 3 years. That's okay. Whatever. If that's what gets you going throughout the day, I say go for it. All right. Oh, he also called himself, I guess, a member of the 25th Amendment Club. Thank you, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Here's an idea. Trade ICE restrictions for citizenship requirements for census and voter ID. Democrats will be pulling out their hair. That's a great point. In the negotiations, if they said, all right, let's do this. We'll give you the ICE restrictions you want, but let's pass the SAVE Act. Was it SAVE, right? Yeah, SAVE Act. Let's make this all legitimate. And, of course, that would be a no-starter. It would be a no-go. In New York, lawmakers from the lower Hudson Valley joined upset customers in calling on the State Public Service Commission to reject NYSEG's request for double-digit rate hikes for gas and electric service. Yes, NYSEG wants their rates to rise. Again, this has to do with Governor Hochul's policies. So this is so frustrating to listen. I'm not saying NYSEG is as clean as a fresh-driven snow. What I'm saying is, though, your bills are high because of our green energy debacle here in New York State. So politicians are seeing this as an opportunity, especially as elections come up, to declare that customers can't afford bills and that NYSEG shouldn't get a raise. Where were they when they were putting in those same policies and one-party rule? Same policies that caused these rate hikes. Now, New York's climate goals are facing a challenge as concern mounts about energy reliability. The Public Service Commission is accepting comments on the proposal to suspend or modify the Green Energy Transition Goals set by Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which mandate that the Empire State run on 70% renewable energy by the end of this decade and go completely emissions-free by the year 2040. A clause in the law gives the Commission the power to suspend the renewable energy goals if they interfere with providing affordable, safe, and reliable power. Well, you can already throw it out if we're talking affordable. Anyway, so their climate goals in New York faces challenge. NYSEG wants to raise rates. All this because of the one-party rule in Albany that was more interested in virtue signaling than they were in accomplishing anything. And it's despicable, and that's why you and I dread and get sick to our stomachs when our gas and electric bill come. But we got to take a break, wrap up today's edition. So get those last-second comments in so I can read them before the end of today's show. Stay with us.
Suburban Propane is here for your residential and industrial propane needs. Serving the surrounding area for over 95 years, we take pride in our reliable delivery service with 24/7, 365 emergency service answered by company representatives. Call today to start your Suburban Propane service.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world.
Hey, you're sober? You drive.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over.
It's the Jeep and Stay sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Oh, hey, should I go to the screen, as you can see that we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Absolutely, I should. Good morning, Frank. I see our fine governor is lowering car insurance rates. Like our electric rates? Yeah, well, the conversation is being had. Why? Because it's an election year. And what it will ultimately do, I'm sure, will cost us in the long run. Mamdani is threatening a 9.5% property tax increase if wealth tax is not passed, calling it a last resort to close a budget gap. Now, on the eve of his first preliminary budget rollout, Governor Kathy Hochul handed him what amounted to a $1.5 billion gift card courtesy of state taxpayers. On Tuesday, the mayor thanked the governor for the promised new state aid by handing her a ticking political bomb. Despite the added money, Mamdani said the city faces a historic $5.4 billion budget gap. Path one to fix the budget gap, he said, would be for the state to give the city authority to raise income taxes on the ultra-wealthy and the most profitable corporations, a step that Hochul refuses to take as of now. Path two, balance the budget on the backs of working people with a 9.5% increase in the city property tax. That would be New York City's first property tax hike in 23 years and its second largest in at least 45 years. And its impact wouldn't be limited to working people. It would undermine the commercial market and push into bankruptcy more of the city's struggling rent-regulated apartment owners. So this was kind of a threat to Hochul. And as Carl Campanelli says, New York is losing jobs to Texas, and Mamdani's tax push will worsen that exodus. Kevin O'Leary actually, I think, put it very succinctly, saying that Mamdani will be the real estate agent of the year with this decision. What he is proposing, this is Kevin O'Leary, nicknamed Mr. Wonderful. What he is proposing is beyond insane, but I love it. You guys live here. You're not paying your fair share. You got to pay 110%. That's the right thing to do because he's not cutting spending. He's not wrong. Boy, it put Hochul in a bad place. Man, it's too bad Stephanie didn't stay in. O'Leary claims Mamdani's initiatives will push New Yorkers out of the Big Apple in mass exodus that would benefit his own business in Florida, probably sometime next year, within the next 12 to 18 months. I will meet him in Miami and give him Real Estate Agent of the Year awards because I'm not happy with what's happening. Everybody from New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts is moving into my neighborhood, he said. I'll say mad, and the guy's just doing more of it. But then he joked, I'm not mad about it. I'm excited because I want you to pay, not me. Now, The View co-host Anna Navarro sided with O'Leary, saying the targeted New Yorkers would find a way to get out of paying the taxes. When you put a hike on taxes just on the very wealthy, you run the risk of those very wealthy not paying it because they'll find a way to have a loophole and skirt those taxes. And even if it means moving to Indian Creek, Florida, and living in a billionaire's bunker. It's not the person making $1 million a year, which in New York is not as much as it sounds. It's the person making $50 million that's moving, she added. All right. That does it. Oh, my gosh. Where did time go? Oh, I love this. This is a perfect comment on our way out the door. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. With so much to cover, how about a third hour? Have a great day. Well, thank you. There is a lot to cover. That's a nice stack of that we didn't even get a chance to mention. I do appreciate that. The kind words, and I appreciate all the conversation this morning. We had a fun time. A lot to cover, a lot going on in the world, in the country. Now, again, as a reminder, I've taken it a little easy because we've had so much to catch up on when it came to guests because we have just been jam-packed from the beginning of the year. So I took a couple days here that you and I could just spend time together. But coming up on Friday, we are going to be talking with former Congressman and current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. He'll be joining us on Friday. Next Wednesday, Sheriff Allard will be joining us. We got a lot of guests coming up, but I don't want to give too many away. You're just going to have to tune in every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it. Already, have a great day, everyone.
Allegiance flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
With the games in full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona Sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.